Woo, boy, I'm still full. Good morning. Welcome in. Thanks for joining us on a Thursday morning on KCMO Talk Radio. Well, as I promised you yesterday, I was going to Q39 for lunch to try the Mayor Quinton Lucas Q39 sandwich that is available this month. Some of the money goes to charity, and it's for his 39th birthday for the mayor of Kansas City.
Midtown location or Overland Park?
Overland Park.
Uh-oh.
Right down the street.
Had a fire last night.
Did they really?
Yeah. I think a little bit after the close kicked off the sprinklers. The fire was part of a gas appliance apparently on the roof. Got the fire out. We're going to have to close because the sprinklers kicked on and kind of soaked the decor.
Well, I'm glad I got in my visit yesterday before the fire. Yeah. Holy cow, I didn't know that. Okay. Well, geez. Hang around John Anthony, you learn new things every day. That's unbelievable. Wow.
Many things you never need to know.
Yeah, sheesh. All right, well, I'm there yesterday with a fellow Kansas City media member, Rob Hughes at Channel 9. Very good guy, serves this country as a reserve. So we got a chance to catch up and talk a little shop yesterday. And I get the Mayor Q sandwich, and it really is a glorified grilled cheese. It's not a bad thing. If you're a grilled cheese guy or gal, you will very much like the brisket inside the pimento cheese grilled on sourdough bread. You'll like it. If you're a grilled cheese person, you will thoroughly enjoy it because you're putting together a lot of good things there. But me, I'm not a grilled cheese guy. And what I would say is it's a disservice to the high-end barbecue that Q39 puts out to slam it between a bunch of pimento cheese and put it on toasted sourdough bread. It was good. I mean, I gave it a 7.4 to 10 on Twitter. And my knock is not really how Q39 put it together. I think Q39 made the best of a tough situation, I would say. But overall, it was a good sandwich if you're into grilled cheeses. Because then they were not skimping on the brisket. I will give them that. They didn't put in just a couple nibbles of brisket between a grilled cheese and say, yeah, $13 later, here's your sandwich. No, they were generous on the brisket. So Q39 did a good job. I would just say that Quinton Lucas's selection of a sandwich for his 39th birthday from Q39 could have been a little bit better. My knock is on his choice for his birthday sandwich, not what Q39 did with that said sandwich. So, if you're in the mood this month, some of the money does go to charity. That's all well and good. But let's just put it this way. When it goes off the menu at the end of the month, I won't be upset about that, John.
Maybe we could get Jersey Boys to kick out a Mundo for us. Would that be great?
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
I swear, I was talking to a guy last week, a client. He swears by that Jersey Mike's place. Yeah. He says it's really good. I've never had it.
Let's get a Mundo.
I like that. All right, jeez. We'll get with the sales staff. See, John can sell this station better than anybody. Look at that. He's on the game. He's on the ball here. Hope your morning's off to a great start. By the way, the mayor will be here at 7:30 this morning, so I'll ask him what he thinks of his own sandwich, and we'll go back and forth on that. But more importantly, in the news cycle, the mayor was not in town yesterday during what happened to be a very important day. The mayor was in Washington, D.C. for Joe Biden to brag about the Inflation Reduction Act. That's what he was doing yesterday. Now, meantime, back here in Kansas City, what was happening? Well, the Major League Baseball commissioner, Rob Manfred, was in town. Rob Manfred was here in Kansas City to talk about the new ballparks, the potential for the Royals, whether it's going downtown to the East Village or going up to North Kansas City. And from what I heard from people who were there yesterday, Rob Manfred took tours of both sites. And then he did this sit-down with Bob Kendrick from the Negro Leagues Museum and John Sherman, the owner of the Royals. They did a little fireside chat type situation at the Urban Youth Academy. And they talked about the state of the game, and they talked about these two options for the Royals. Now, what I was told is that obviously Quinton Lucas was not there, which we knew yesterday because he was going to D.C. But Frank White also was not there, the Jackson County executive. He was nowhere to be found. So think about this. You have one location in Jackson County, downtown Kansas City, right? The one in the East Village. Then you've got the one north of the river. I heard that Clay County was there in mass. I mean, anybody in Clay County who got an invite to this event was there. From Jackson County and Kansas City, Missouri proper, the two most prominent people were missing, Quinton Lucas and Frank White. What does that tell me? That tells me that they think this thing's going to Clay County. They did not want to be there for whatever reason. Now, Quinton, I'm going to have him on, and I'm sure he's going to say, I didn't want to pass up an opportunity to go to the White House. Fine. But if it truly is in the best interests of your city to have you here to schmooze the commissioner and the owner and rub elbows with this very public event, and you're not there, if it truly is in the best interest for the city to keep the Royals in this town, then to me, you should have been here. Unless secretly, and not even all that secretly anymore, but there's this realization of the Royals are going to go up north, and that's okay because it spreads the tax burden around to other counties, other parts of the region, and that's fine. And then Jackson County and Kansas City can focus on the Chiefs and what they want to do out there at the Truman Sports Complex. Maybe they're coming around to that realization, and they don't want to be in a situation like yesterday where they're basically watching their own demise when it comes to the Royals and where their future is going to be. That's the conclusion I keep coming to. Now, I'm going to figure out, we're going to ask the mayor, hey, the timeline on this, when did you get invited to D.C.? Why'd you take that trip? When did you find out Rob Manfred was coming here? That way we can piece this whole thing together. But yesterday, what you heard from Rob Manfred was a commissioner who seems to be impressed by both locations that we've got here.
The fact that in Kansas City there are two sites, just of unbelievably high quality that are available for the building of a ballpark is a tremendous opportunity for this community. Forget for the Royals, for the community. I mean, both of these sites are outstanding sites for a new ballpark. And I think both of them present the opportunity for entertainment district development around the ballpark.
So Manfred wasn't going to go out there and say anything. He's just like, hey, two great options. Yeah, there was nothing that Rob Manfred was going to say to, tip his hand. But what I did hear from people who were on the tour of both sites is that Manfred on the East Village site was shown the rendering and presentation at the J.E. Dunn office. And then in North KC, he ended up going to the Oxbow, which is a new condo place right there in North Kansas City. And you go to the top floor penthouse, and there's a pool, and you got a good view of downtown. I've been up there with people to get that tour and get that view, and you have a great view of the skyline. And that's what Rob Manfred saw. That's where they took him. He got to see the North Kansas City site, and apparently he loved it. Now, that doesn't mean he didn't love the East Village, but I know from people that were touring the North KC site with him that he loved it, and he was very impressed by it. Now, of course, publicly, he's going to say, hey, you got two good options here, Kansas City. What else is he going to say? But I'll tell you right now, yesterday to me, not with what anybody said, but with the actions of chosen individuals, everybody believes this thing is going up north. 913-408-7710. We're supposed to have the renderings made public here in the next couple of weeks. And then a decision by the Royals on their future will be coming at the end of September. 913-408-7710 as we get it rolling at 6:14 on a Thursday morning. The mayor will be here in just over an hour from now on KCMO. Well, for those of you asking, if you want to see a picture of the Q39 Quinton Lucas glorified grilled cheese from yesterday that I reviewed, it is up on Twitter right now, and I will post a picture of it on Facebook here momentarily. That way you can see what it looks like for yourself without all, usually when they put a sandwich up, right, you see a picture of a sandwich somewhere, it always looks better than it is. This one, this is a real, just picture off my phone. And it looks damn good. I mean, you're not going to be upset if you get it. I'm just sitting here telling you that the Quentin Lucas birthday sandwich that Q39 is doing is truly a glorified grilled cheese. And if you're like me and you're not a grilled cheese guy, it's like, why ruin good barbecue with a grilled cheese? If you're a grilled cheese fan, you're going to love it. I mean, you're going to do cartwheels. They load this thing up with brisket, and it's really good. It's just not what I would choose to eat. I really haven't eaten. Last night, Kate was like, what do you want for dinner? I'm like, nothing. I had this sandwich at 1:30. I mean, jeez. Barely ate anything this morning. So we'll be back to normal by later today, hopefully. Meantime, the big story in town yesterday was the visit of Commissioner Rob Manfred, Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred, who was touring the both sites that the Royals are considering moving to, the East Village and North Kansas City. And the mayor not showing up because he was in D.C., celebrating the Inflation Reduction Act. Could you imagine doing such a thing? I mean, celebrating Joe Biden's Inflation Reduction Act? Holy crap. And Frank White, I don't know. Frank White might have been lost somewhere. I'm not sure why he wasn't there, but Frank White was not there either. And when the two most prominent people in Jackson County and Kansas City do not show up to this event with Royals ownership and the Major League Baseball commissioner, that tells me they know where this thing is going. They know it's going up north. Steve is on KCMO. Hey, Steven, what's up?
Hey, Doc, how's it going?
Oh, it's going well, my man. Long time no talk. How you doing?
Yeah, I'll be able to see you soon. I just want to say this is a prime example of what I've been talking about all along. They don't care. They don't care. They get your vote. It fails. It stops being your agenda and the people's agenda, and it becomes your agenda and what you want. And they'll do anything they can because they know they can't get in my office. I was talking to a lady yesterday in a restaurant, and we were talking about the taxes that they're paying. Well, they know you're gonna complain. You're gonna complain, and you're gonna rant and gripe, but you pay the taxes or you lose your house. They don't care. And this is the prime example of Frank White and Quentin Lucas. I mean, it's sad. It really is. But these people, you keep voting in office, and you wonder why the neighborhood keeps going backwards like it's going.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. 913-408-7710. You get what you vote for. I see your broader point there. As for the Royals, like, if I'm a Jackson County resident, here's the thing, though. If I'm a Jackson County resident, I'm kind of okay with this. If you take the emotion out of it, like, oh, my gosh, we're going to lose the Royals, I'm okay with not having my taxes go up to fund a Major League Baseball team. I'm accepting of that, especially since we know the Chiefs are going to have a big ask, and now you can just extend the current 3/8 cent sales tax that currently exists, and you can do that and give all that money to the Chiefs. That's what you can do now. John Sherman yesterday was asked the obvious question. Now, they did this clearly. John Sherman knew this question was coming, the owner of the Royals. But he was asked by Bob Kendrick, who was kind of moderating this thing between the commissioner and the owner. He asked him, why don't you build your own darn stadium? And here's what Sherman had to say.
Well, we acquired this team knowing we had an old building, knowing it'd be 60 years old and this would be the most important decision that we would make while we have the privilege of stewarding this franchise. And we want to partner on that. We want to, whether we're looking for a 25, 30, 40-year lease, at the end of that, that's going to be somebody else's problem, not mine. And I really want the Royals to be tied to this community in a long-term way, like it has been to this point. We happen to inherit, while we're at this critical juncture, and we're taking that very, very seriously. But I would just answer that by saying we think it should be a partnership. We feel like we'll deliver great public benefit and economic impact, and we expect the community to measure that and hold us accountable for delivering that. But that's why our feeling is it needs to be a public-private partnership.
Now, you tell me, is that a sufficient answer? Or is that just, hey, we got a big project here and we think we're going to do good things for the community, so come on in, help us out, kick in a half a cent or so, would you please? From John Sherman there, the owner of the Royals. I mean, doesn't matter if you're in Clay or Jackson. Is that a sufficient answer? The question from Bob Kendrick was simple. Why don't you build your own stadium? And you heard the pitch there from John Sherman saying, we think we'll do a lot of good things. We think this should be private-public partnership, and we think that's important for the future success. I mean, it'd be nice if every business could have this kind of impact, right? Where they would just say, hey, can we get some public dollars to build the new building for my company? With sports teams, we just accept it, and I understand why we accept it. I do. I've put it out there that I get why John Sherman's leaving, as much as I don't like the fact that he's leaving. I get why he's leaving from a business perspective. And then on top of that, to take it one step further, I understand why he's asking for some public dollars, because they all do it. It's the way the game is played. Doesn't make it perfect, doesn't make it right necessarily, but I get why they do it. But when you hear John Sherman answer that question the way he just did, does that make you say, if you're on the fence, yeah, sign me up? I didn't know if I wanted to chip in any money towards this thing, but that really convinced me. I don't think it convinced anybody. And that's not to necessarily knock John Sherman. I just don't think that was an incredibly compelling answer to the question on why the public should be chipping in. What I would be looking at, what I would be saying if I was John Sherman is, hey, we're going to create and help X amount of jobs here in a new part of town. We'll also create new revenues from restaurants and businesses and things like that will add to the greater economy in Kansas City. It will be a destination. Those are all the things I would be saying if that question was posed to me and I was John Sherman. But I didn't think that sales pitch was going to ignite anybody to, run from one side of the fence to the other. News is coming up in a couple of minutes on KCMO Talk Radio. Thanks for being here on a Thursday morning. Speaking of Quentin Lucas and his trip to D.C., the Inflation Reduction Act, can you believe the way these people are celebrating? We'll get to it next. Oh, the political stones of these people in D.C. we're going to get to here coming up in a couple of minutes on KCMO. Happy Thursday. Thanks for starting your day with us on 710 AM and 103.7 FM. Good morning, John.
Who knew a baseball stadium would be a political football?
Hey, I see what you did there. Oh, my goodness. Woo, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. So I'm going to get to this coming up because this all weaves together. You got Rob Manfred, the Major League Baseball commissioner, in Kansas City yesterday, touring the two sites for the Royals. Meantime, the mayor of Kansas City is in D.C., rubbing elbows with the Biden administration, where they're bragging about the Inflation Reduction Act. Woo, gosh. All right, so I'll get to that here on KCMO Talk Radio. In the meantime, we've got you at 913-408-7710. Mark's in Mission. Hey, Mark, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Mark. What's happening?
Well, I had just one comment on the baseball thing. Baseball stadium, that he wants public money as well as private money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've been a baseball fan for years. I've been to every major league ballpark. Some of them are really nice. Some of them are not so nice. But if this man wants public money, my theory is if your team is under 500, then stuff should be half price.
Oh! That's very well done there. Thank you very much.
If you want in my pocket, you got to give me in something out of your pocket.
Yep. That's well done there, Mark. All right. Well, on our show, our Mark was at Dollar Hot Dog Night on Tuesday with his daughter. And what I'm hearing from Mark in Mission is that he needs a few more Dollar Hot Dog Nights to get himself to buy into this new plan.
That would be fair.
All right. How often do they do that? Is that just Tuesdays they do that Dollar Hot Dog Night?
Yeah, Tuesday home games.
Tuesday home games.
And it also, they do the Dollar Peanuts and the Dollar Pop, too.
Same night?
Same night.
Oh, wow. All right. Peanuts, pop, and a hot dog for $3. That's a good deal. After the city scorches you on some taxes, you're looking at about $3.40, but not bad. Let's go to Jim out east. What's up, Jim?
Hey, Pete, this is no different than asking like Lowe's and Bass Pro and all them for tax incentives. They don't pay taxes instead of you paying taxes. And then if they just put up some solar panels and windmills, they might get some federal money.
Oh, my gosh. I don't know when we've ever done back-to-back rim shots with callers. That's great work there, Jim.
All righty.
Outstanding. That weaves so well. Gosh, you guys are good. You're sharp here for the 6 o'clock hour on a Thursday morning. That weaves very well into this next conversation. Talking about subsidies for wind farms and solar panels and things like that. Well, yesterday, you had Quentin Lucas in D.C. The Biden administration was there bragging about the Inflation Reduction Act. It was the 1-year anniversary of the Inflation Reduction Act. And take a listen to Karine Jean-Pierre, one of the corniest lines of all time to come from a White House press secretary.
As you all know, today is the first anniversary of the Inflation Reduction Act. Most 1-year-olds can barely walk. But this 1-year-old is up and running. I couldn't help myself, sorry. Up and running. So that's very excited. We're very excited about the Inflation Reduction Act and everything that it's doing.
How dare you?
Gosh.
1-year-olds can fill a diaper pretty fast, too. So.
And my 1-year-old could do the job better than she is, or my 2-year-old now could do the job better than she is doing it. We're also very, what did she say? We're very exciting about this very excited day. It's like, speak some damn English, would you please? Gosh, the grammar is just horrible. The jokes suck. The grammar's horrible. The policy's god-awful. I mean, nothing about this works. They literally had a party for themselves to brag about the Inflation Reduction Act, which had nothing to do with inflation and was all about, to Jim's point, subsidies for things like solar panels and wind farms. The Wall Street Journal had a very good in-depth piece on this morning. And they talked about how the price of everything in this space has gone up. Construction spending on factories has soared 80% in the past year, according to the Census Bureau. Public works spending increased 14%, especially on electric power projects, 37% increase. Conservation and development, 30% increase. Highways and streets, costs are up 20%. In part, why? Because when the government hands a blank check and says, go spend this, just spend it on air quotes infrastructure. What happens? A lot of money goes somewhere. It's not coming down to you and me. And, I'm fine with that. But we don't know where it's going. And it's certainly not improving our lives like they claim it is. This was yesterday a chance for the White House to pat itself on the back and try to once again convince you on Main Street that they are doing great things in your interests. And they're not. There are a handful of companies and a handful of individuals getting very rich off our great-grandkids' tax dollars. That's all this is. I mean, I'm still waiting on the productivity bump from the 2009 shovel-ready jobs projects that were promised us back in the early Obama years. Has anyone, Bueller? No? Oh, we haven't seen anything out of that either? Gosh. And when you think about it, what are these companies doing? Well, let me give you an example. Here's one company, First Solar, will rake in $710 million from the government this year for its solar panels. Nearly 90% of its forecast operating profit is coming from the federal government. Panasonic expecting to pocket $2 billion in tax credits each year for its battery factories here in Kansas and in Nevada. Oil and gas companies are plowing more money into subsidized green technologies. Why? Because they can get a higher return on investment than hydrocarbons. Example, ExxonMobil plans to invest $7 billion in hydrogen, carbon capture, and biofuels through 2027. That's $7 billion less than could be invested in oil and gas. Let's be clear. Most of these green energy investments are not happening without subsidies. The government is forcing these companies or really encouraging these companies to do all this stuff despite the fact that you don't want it. You're not interested in it. And that's not me just opining. That's what's happening. Look at the electric vehicle market. Look at what Ford has done. Ford announced last month that it's doing 3,000 layoffs, in part because the EV models have not done as well as they expected them to do. Their CFO, John Lawler, said recently, quote, "The transition to EVs is happening. It just may take a little longer." Well, what happens if you and I don't buy EVs? Well, in Democratic states, they're going to basically force you. That's what they're doing in California, where they're outlawing or banning gas-powered cars by sometime in the 2030s? They're going to force you through the might and the power of the federal or state government to get you into the kind of cars and eventually using the kind of energy that they want to see you use. That will enrich a small group of people, will not be cheaper for you, will not be more useful for you, but will be done in the name of common good. Don't you want to save the planet? It is one big scam. The Inflation Reduction Act was never about reducing inflation. Inflation's come down, but prices have never been higher. Inflation is still 3%, which is 50% higher than the Fed target of 2%. Great, it's not 8%, but it's not like prices are down. They're still going up at a higher rate than the Fed wants them to. They're just not increasing at the same rate as last year. But they're increasing at a rate more than wages are increasing. So everybody is poorer. Real wages are down since this guy took office 3%. Yet they're throwing themselves a party yesterday. By the way, on your dime for the Inflation Reduction Act, the political balls on these people truly knows no end. 913-408-7710. As we hit 6:45 on a Thursday morning on KCMO Talk Radio, 710 AM and 103.7 FM. Top of the hour, Lori Sharp is with the Stop Rezoning Prairie Village organization. There was a big meeting last night in terms of where that community is going to go moving forward when it comes to the rezoning that is happening in Prairie Village, but is really relevant to the entire metro. So we'll have a great conversation with her. The latest on Chiefsaholic as well, all coming up on KCMO. Welcome in. Happy Thursday morning. Quentin Lucas will be here just over 10 minutes from now after his trip to D.C. yesterday, where he got to celebrate. I say that tongue-in-cheek, but they were actually celebrating the Inflation Reduction Act. So we'll talk to him about that. Meantime, I see that there is a hurricane, interestingly, off the coast of Mexico, west side of Mexico, and it's Hurricane Hillary. So that seems very appropriate. We'll see where that ends up heading. I see that, what's her name here on Fox News? Weather lady. Janice Dean is going through that right now. And also of note here, just breaking mortgage rates have now hit a 22-year high, 7.16%. Sheesh. That's Bidenomics at work, baby. Come on, man. Unbelievable. Now, here in Kansas City, yesterday was a big day where Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred was in town. He was here to talk to the Royals about their two options of where they might relocate, either the East Village, downtown, or North Kansas City. So it looks like North Kansas City has taken the lead. I would sit here and I would say right now, 75-25, North KC gets the Royals. And it's interesting that the mayor was not there yesterday. From what I gathered, Frank White was not there yesterday either. But Rob Manfred, I talked to people who were there yesterday, and they're like, this was a snooze fest. Like some of the people who were there just to be a part of the event. And they're like, John Sherman and Rob Manfred told us nothing. And I was thinking, wow, that's what I told everybody on this show was going to happen a couple of days ago. Nothing was actually going to come out of this meeting. This was intended to be a dog and pony show where the Major League Baseball commissioner would come here, do this event, and would tell Kansas Cityans how great a new ballpark is going to be for them. And then the media would carry that water to their nightly newscasts and would run the clips, and they would try to sell you on the idea of a new stadium. Now, I'm not against the new stadium. I know it's going to happen. I accept it. But that was the purpose of yesterday. It wasn't to learn anything. There was no news that really came out of it. It was to put on a little show and then have local media run that show on their nightly newscasts and try to continue to sell the public on why this is a good idea and why they should invest tax dollars into this project, whether it's in Jackson or Clay. But there's one part where Rob Manfred, the Major League Baseball commissioner, just got it totally wrong. He's talking about the vision the Royals have, the ballpark village that they want to, develop and put together. And he insists that in the economics of baseball, where there's no salary cap like there is in other sports, you need to create revenues from other avenues to compete and invest those monies back into the team on the field. Here's what Rob Manfred had to say, and he's dead wrong about this.
New facilities provide a ball club with an opportunity, revenue generation opportunities that simply don't exist in older footprints. I mean, at some point, great baseball park here. Having said that, it is an older ballpark that does not have the kind of premier revenue generating opportunities that you get in a new facility. For a market of this size, those opportunities are crucial in today's game in order to put the ball club in a position to be competitive over the long haul. If you're in a really big media market and, you're getting big media dollars, it's less crucial. In markets like this, you need that live gate revenue opportunity to be competitive.
Well, no, you don't. That's not true, Rob Manfred. You don't. I mean, it's nice. I'm not saying the Royals shouldn't want to try to make more money. And instead of having you tailgating in the parking lots, they want you to go to the ballpark village and buy $12 beers. I mean, that's their prerogative. That's capitalism. But the idea that you need that money to field a good baseball team is just not true. I was looking at the Major League Baseball standings last night. The two best teams in the American League are the Baltimore Orioles and the Tampa Bay Rays. They each have payrolls way less than the Kansas City Royals. The Orioles are in first place in the American League East. They got a $50 million payroll. The Royals' payroll is $75 million. The Rays have a $56 million payroll, it looks like. Meantime, you look around the rest of the sport, and some of the other teams playing well this year. The Milwaukee Brewers are in first place in the National League Central, ahead of the Chicago Cubs. Their payroll is also bottom third in Major League Baseball at about $108 million. Now they've got some type of Village E set up there, but certainly the Tampa Bay Rays don't. Baltimore Orioles have had their stadium for the better part of 20, 25 years now in the Inner Harbor in Baltimore. So it's just not true that you have to have these revenue streams to field a competitive team. Rob Manfred is saying this in Kansas City where the Royals are, 8 years removed now from a World Series? Wasn't all that long ago. Geez, how'd you field a winning team at the K without a ballpark village? My goodness. How'd you ever do such a thing? It's a miracle. It's like, no, it's not. If you scout well, okay, fine, you're not going to be the Yankees. But you know what? Look at the standings. The Yankees are in last place in their division. So what's that really worth? The Mets blow. I mean,
Yankees one game under 500 for the first time this late in the season since 1995.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, that's a good little tidbit there, Mark. I'm really upset about that. Woo! Not. So you've got, for Rob Manfred to come to Kansas City and say it's imperative to have a ballpark village to field a competitive team, when if you literally look at the standings as of this morning, which proves that that is in no way true, it tells you all you need to know about what this visit was really about. The visit was to push a storyline and push an agenda on the broader public in Kansas City on why you should invest in a private-public partnership to help fund a new ballpark. That's what it was about. And they're allowed to do that. That's fine. I accept it. I understand a new stadium is coming. I'm not sitting here today saying, stay at the K. That's not happening. but it makes it very obvious what yesterday was all about. So we were just talking about polling around North Kansas City, Clay County, Jackson County, the Royals, where they're going to move, where they want to go. We'll find out by the end of September what their future is or where they want their future to be. And as I said, I guarantee you they've done internal polling that would suggest whatever they bring to the Clay County taxpayer, if they decide to go up north, will pass. I guarantee it. There's no doubt in my mind. And as somebody close to the situation told me, the best thing they've got going for them in Clay County, the ace up the sleeve, two guys, Frank White and Quentin Lucas. They firmly believe that those two guys, who, by the way, do not like each other, have helped North Kansas City in the process of landing the Royals. Frank White is still bitter and does not have a good relationship with the Royals. And he was not, by the way, there yesterday. What I was told, he was nowhere to be found yesterday with Rob Manfred in town. And then, Quentin Lucas and some of the mistakes the city has made, the crime increases, things like that, that also is helping North Kansas City. No one will say that publicly, but those are the facts. That is absolutely true. Now, speaking of polling, let's go to the national level. You just heard this at the bottom of the hour news from Fox. New polling out. Boy, it is not close. Donald Trump leads the way, 2024 GOP nominee. Trump at 53%. This is a poll of Republican primary voters done last week. Trump at 53%. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis at 16%. Vivek Ramaswamy, successful entrepreneur, businessman at 11%. Mike Pence at 5%. Nikki Haley at 4%. Chris Christie is at 3%, and Tim Scott is also at 3%. So, this is the largest margin that Trump has had in the primary thus far. It's, I don't want to say it's insurmountable. It's still early, but dang, it's a massive lead. Now, there's a good thing in this, and there's a bad thing in this for Trump. Should I start with the good or the bad? What do you think people will appreciate more? Do I start with the good thing for Trump in the poll or the bad thing for Trump in the poll?
How do you tell the difference? Sometimes, huh?
That's true. Yeah, what some perceive to be good could be bad. What some perceive to be bad could be good. Mark votes good, so I'll go with the good first.
Here.
Sound good? All right, great. Here's the good thing for Trump in this Fox News poll. Of all the Republican potential candidates in this race, according to the polling done by Fox News of registered voters, Joe Biden and Donald Trump, it's within the margin of error between Joe Biden and Donald Trump nationally. They did each of the top Republican candidates against Joe Biden in a theoretical 2024 matchup. And Joe Biden, sad to say, beats them all. That's the power of the incumbency, but it is really sad and pathetic that Joe Biden does beat them all in a theoretical head-to-head. But Trump is the closest of any Republican candidate in a head-to-head with Joe Biden. So Biden-Trump is 44-41, Biden-Trump, with a margin of error of 3%. So it's within the margin of error. DeSantis trails Biden 44-39. Vivek Ramaswamy trails Biden 42-38. Nikki Haley trails Biden 42-36. And Tim Scott trails Biden 42-36. So that may be name recognition. There's a lot of things that can factor into that. But if you're Trump, you got to look at this Fox News poll and say, geez, I'm running away with the primary. And of the Republican candidates, I have the smallest margin of defeat against Joe Biden. Now, you're not beating him, but nobody else is. And you're the closest to Joe Biden in a theoretical head-to-head. So if you're Trump, you got to look at that poll and say, oh, that's great. And that takes away the talking point that, Trump can't win. Trump can't win. Trump can't win. So that's the good part if you're Trump and you're looking at this poll. Here's the bad part. if you're Trump and you're looking at this poll that Fox News did. And this gets pretty granular in terms of how much they broke it down. Fox News polling net favorability ratings. Joe Biden is 14 points underwater, minus 14% in net favorability amongst all registered voters. So he's well underwater. Here's Trump's problem. His net favorability, minus 22. Woo! Boy, I mean, that minus 22 on net favorability.
Not within the margin of error
No.
from Biden.
No. And it gets worse when you break it down by subgroups. Joe Biden with independents is minus 32. He's 32 points underwater with independents. That's horrible. Problem is Trump is minus 42 with independents. Suburban voters. Joe Biden is 16 points underwater. Suburban voters know he's doing a bad job. Minus 16. Donald Trump, suburban voters, minus 26. Yeesh. Suburban women, right? I mean, we've talked a lot about the female vote. Suburban women.
Hey, where are the white women at?
All right. Joe Biden, 8 points underwater with suburban women. Minus 8. Donald Trump with suburban women. Minus 32 net favorability. 4 times as bad as Joe on net favorability with suburban women. And white college voters. White college voters. So the OWWs, overeducated woke whites. Joe Biden minus 2 on net favorability. You want to guess Trump's net favorability with white college voters?
Okay, it's going to be minus double digits. So
Yep.
I will reach for 20.
Double it.
Wow.
Trump is minus 40 net favorability with white college voters.
Gee, I wonder what they're teaching on campus. Right?
Not
minus
economics.
2 to minus 40.
Well, think about that, right? That if you like, so the good here in this poll is that Trump's leading the Republican primary by 40 points, and he's the closest to Joe Biden in a theoretical head-to-head. His problem are his net favorability numbers with independents, suburban voters, suburban women, and whites with college degrees. He's minus 40 with whites with college degrees. I mean, that is colossal in terms of how bad that is. So this doesn't mean that he can't win. The polling would suggest Trump is within the margin of error. He can win the presidency in 2024. He's got to figure out how to shrink those margins. It's not like he's going to go from minus 32 to plus 32 with suburban women in net favorability. That's never going to happen. Can he get it down to the 20s? Can we get it down to the high teens? I don't know. I do not know. All I know is there's a lot of good in this Fox News poll that came out last night from Trump, for Trump. There's a lot of bad as well. And there's a lot that's going to happen between now and, next November, but wow. I mean, that should be sending off the alarm bells. That Joe Biden is underwater mostly across the board with a lot of people that he needs to win, right? Like Biden being underwater double digits with suburban voters is potentially a great sign for the Republican Party. But if Biden's minus 16 and then Trump's minus 26, it's a zero-sum game. I'd rather be minus 16 than minus 26. So, man, oh, man.
Yeah, those independent numbers, right?
Yeah.
So you got to change a diaper here.
Yes.
I'll change the diaper with the number 1. You do the number 2 diarrhea diaper. That's what we're looking at. If you're going to hold your nose when you go to the polls,
yes.
One's a little easier to approach, seemingly, statistically speaking.
Bingo. Biden's minus 32 with independents, but Trump's minus 42. So, I don't want to be minus 32, but I'd rather be minus 32 than minus 42, to your point, John. 913-408-7710. 913-408-7710. And, you just look at the polling, and it's the best we can go off of right now. It's the best that we got. I wouldn't look, there's no point in complaining about the polling, but just realize this is what the polling is showing, and how do you reverse that trend? 913-408-7710 as we approach 9 o'clock on KCMO Talk Radio. I haven't done this yet. Brittany Mahomes is very upset about something. Very upset. Patrick Mahomes' wife. And when I saw the story, I was like, I got to give her a hard time for this. And now I'm like, no, I'm not going to. I completely support her. I'll tell you what that is next. Well, Brittany Mahomes caused a ruckus on social media, and it's not for reasons that, you're going to say she's unlikable. No, this is actually, I think, pretty funny and pretty personable, and makes her come across pretty real. And by the way, I finished the quarterback series on Netflix. Did you guys watch that start to finish?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I liked it.
I did too.
I think I preferred the first few episodes in an overall sense. I got there, and it was interesting, the ebb and flow of the energy level as they went from quarterback to quarterback in the series.
Yeah, I came away, Patrick Mahomes was exactly who I expected him to be coming out of that series. Kirk Cousins, how do you not like Kirk Cousins? I'll tell you what, that guy, I think he's very likable. And then Marcus Mariota bailing on his team like he did at the end of the season. I know he had a baby, but it's like, dude, you're one play away because you lost your job of still being back in the game. I think him bailing on his team like that was pretty weak. But it's a very good series. They follow 3 quarterbacks around, one being Patrick Mahomes. And it's an 8-part series on Netflix done by Peyton Manning. And I liked it. I'd give it a 7 out of 10. I was very pleased with it.
Yeah, it seems Marcus struggles with life a little more than the other two.
Yes.
He's like, I'm from Hawaii. I couldn't take it here in Oregon. And then he goes to, where he comes in. It's great to be back here in Oregon or Washington when they were playing. I'm like, come on, dude.
Yeah, no, I agree. He was not as likable as I thought he was going to be. But, Brittany and Patrick were basically what I expected. So I bring that up because Brittany Mahomes puts on Twitter here the other day, Red Lobster has really got rid of their coconut shrimp, in case anybody was wondering, with a bunch of crying emojis. And Red Lobster responded yesterday and said, Brittany, we think you're shrimply the best. Yeah, they went there. Red Lobster's official Twitter account writes, Brittany, we think you're shrimply the best, and we're sorry you didn't get your coconut shrimp. It's still on the menu, so don't worry. Shoot us a DM to coordinate getting your coconut shrimp fill. And I'm seeing this at first, and I'm like, all right, here's a lady who could have, with all the wealth, could have salmon shipped to her front door on a private jet from Alaska. She could have lobsters show up alive on a helicopter from Maine. She could have crabs, the food, coming from the Chesapeake Bay right to her front doorstep. Yet here she is, loving the Red Lobster coconut shrimp. And then I said, you know what? I love that. I love people who stay true to who they are. And money doesn't change them. And I think money changes everybody in a little way, at least. It's got to change you in some ways. But I respect the fact that, here she is, small town girl from Texas. And despite the fact that she could have whatever seafood she wants on the planet, she's bummed that the Red Lobster coconut shrimp is not available in whatever Red Lobster she was in. It's not off the menu. It just apparently wasn't available wherever she was. And I'm like, that's real. I can respect somebody who's not like, I don't eat Red Lobster anymore. My family's worth tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. I will not be seen at a Red Lobster. Not only is she still digging Red Lobster, she's bragging about her love for Red Lobster on social media. I respect that. My first instinct was to be like, really? Red Lobster shrimp? And then I calmed down for a second, and I said, you know what? I like that about her. That is very relatable. I can appreciate that about Brittany Mahomes.
I bet they also enjoy themselves some 2 for $25 from Applebee's on a Friday night, too.
Let's not get carried away, Mark. A little too much salt in those 2 for $25 deals at Applebee's.
Potentially. But I was remembering from Friday Night Lights, they had a ton of Applebee's down there in Texas, allegedly.
Yes, that is, as someone who's called high school football games in Texas, I can confirm that firsthand. Every small town has a Pizza Hut and an Applebee's. You're right about that. You got those two things knocked out, Mark. You're good to go there. But I was like, you know what? That's pretty cool. Despite the fact that she could have seafood anywhere in the world, she's upset about the coconut shrimp not being available in her Red Lobster. I like that about Brittany Mahomes. Now, I don't know if this was in Texas or here in Kansas City, but there were a lot of people who were responding to her up here in Kansas City. Someone's like, hey, go to the Red Lobster on Barry Road. They got plenty of coconut shrimp. But, I still haven't been to one. I've got to go. I know some of you are going to judge me for this, but I've yet to eat in a Red Lobster. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Someone's going to have to drag me kicking and screaming to go. Maybe, I tried the Q39 Mayor Q sandwich yesterday, so maybe I'll check Red Lobster off my bucket list next. I don't know, John.
Well, you'll like the cheesy biscuits at least. Those are free.
That's what everyone swears by.
Right.
But here's the thing. I don't want to go to a seafood place for the biscuits.
Exactly.
I want to go for the seafood.
Exactly.
So that's where I'm kind of torn. If I'm going to a seafood place and I come out of it saying, wow, those biscuits were great, then we got a problem.
Touche.
So, I'm open ears.
They sell the mix in the store. We make them all the time whenever we throw together shrimp to just kind of add that to it. So
you do it yourself. All right. That's one way to go. Well, yeah, you can shoot me a text at 913-408-7710. If I'm going to do the Red Lobster, if I'm going to pull the trigger on it, someone's got to tell me what to get. And I will say, though, I'm allergic to shrimp, so I can't eat the shrimp. So there's got to be something else you got to give me. I can't eat the shrimp.
Don't go on paydays.
Okay.
That's the deal where, the Brady Bunch show up because, hey, Dad just got paid. We're going to feed Greg and Bobby and Peter and everybody.
I feel like you're saying something about the clientele, too, in that comment.
It gets crowded on paydays, what I'm saying. And that's all.
Oh, gosh. Well, if you want something to eat for lunch, yesterday I went to Q39 before they had the fire there here in Overland Park. I don't know if you saw that, but there was a late-night fire at the Overland Park Q39. Nothing major, but there was a fire there last night. I happened to be there for lunch yesterday, and I tried the Quentin Lucas Q39 sandwich they're doing this month for his 39th birthday. And it's basically a glorified grilled cheese with brisket in it. It's good for what it is. I just don't think you ruin great barbecue like Q39 with pimento cheese. I just don't think you do it. But in terms of the options and how Q39 did it, they did it very well. I just wanted to put that combo together. So I gave it I got a picture of it on the KCMO Talk Radio Twitter and Facebook page. Pop it on the Instagram page too, Mark, if you could. 913-408-7710. Why is Rex Archer back in the news here in Kansas City? Oh, gosh.
Thanksgiving. Boy, I love Thanksgiving.
We'll get to it coming up on KCMO Talk Radio, 710 AM, 103.7 FM, and, of course, stream us on the all-new KCMO Talk Radio app. 9 o'clock hour on KCMO Talk Radio. Thanks, as always, for joining us. We've got an hour left. Chris DeGaulle will take over at 10 o'clock, as he does each and every weekday morning. So why, I don't know, but why would Rex Archer be back in the news in this town? Why would anybody in Kansas City give a rip, to put it politely, about what the former Kansas City, Missouri health director thinks about anything? He was wrong on COVID at every turn. I mean, if Rex Archer had his way, we'd still be locked down and you wouldn't be able to walk around Kansas City unless you had the shot. Rex Archer, the former health director in Kansas City, Missouri, who was clearing, I think it was close to $250,000 a year when all was said and done, on the taxpayers' back. This guy came on the show in the early days of COVID. It was April of 2020. And, I like everybody, I'll give him a shot, give him a chance. But I remember being like, all right, this guy, I don't get a good feel. I didn't get a good feel when he told me to sleep in a different room from my wife in the early days of COVID. Mark wasn't a part of the show back then, but John was. You remember that, John?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He said it with a straight face. He said, yeah, I'm sleeping in a different room from my wife. I'm like, are you sure she's not just throwing you in another room and using COVID as an excuse? Just throwing that possibility out there. And he suggested everybody do that. You know, don't sleep in the bed with your spouse. Sleep in different rooms because, well, COVID.
It was less risky to jump out of a second-story window?
Yeah, than to go out to dinner.
I think.
He said that once, too. Not on this show. That was long after our relationship fell apart. That was like 6, 7, 8 months into COVID, right before the holidays in 2020. He said that you're better off jumping out of a second-story window than you are, going into a restaurant indoors in Kansas City. And that's, of course, when he dropped the famous line.
Thanksgiving. Boy, I love Thanksgiving.
Oh, I love Thanksgiving, says Rex Archer. It's now become a drop on this show. It has been for the better part of nearly 3 years now. That was as he went into his talking points on why nobody should spend time with their family during the holidays. He prefaced it by saying, nobody loves Thanksgiving more than me. I'm a big dark meat guy. I love Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. Boy, I love Thanksgiving.
That was the preface to him basically saying, don't spend time with your family and hide in a bubble in your house and never see anybody ever again.
It was suggesting like the Beverly Hillbillies Thanksgiving dinner where they eat at the pool table, if you've ever seen it, and they think that the pool cues are handy-dandy pot passers, and they're lifting up the buckets and passing them around with those pool cues. So it's like, stay away. Social distance.
But apparently, woke KCUR, can you believe this? KCUR here in town put Rex Archer on their show this week to talk about climate change. Geez, if there's anything that Rex could be more wrong on than COVID, it's probably climate change. So let's put him on the air. Let's give him the microphone to tell us if we don't do everything he suggests on green energy, we're all going to die. Well, Rex, we already didn't listen to you on COVID and we're not dead. So why should we listen to you now? Rex Archer is the boy who cried wolf. The fat old boy with a beard, but he is the boy who cried wolf. He will be right eventually about something. Thank goodness he no longer has any pull in this town. He's retired. Good riddance. But he will be right about something. I'm sure he's been right about something. But like everything else with guys like him, they got to be right eventually. You throw enough stuff against the wall, something's going to stick. But I saw this, Tony's Kansas City had it, and it linked to the KCUR article/interview. And the headline, climate change is making rare diseases in the U.S. more common, Kansas City doctors say. Dr. Rex Archer said, quote, the constant increases in temperature and the lack of the hard freezing things over the winter, many of the insects are thriving and growing at faster rates. And he goes on to probably tell you, without listening to the article, that you should probably keep wearing a mask to save yourself from climate change or something like that. What a world, man. I mean, I know it's different strokes for different folks, and KCUR is, trying to achieve a certain agenda, I would say. And by the way, I don't mind them having an opinion, having an agenda. Everybody has one. But unlike us, we have an opinion. We will have an agenda and a plan and a roadmap for the show. We're transparent with you about that. KCUR masks their agenda as a news outlet. We are just news people, and that's what we do here at KCUR. By the way, can we have a handout, please? Shake people down for a couple of bucks. Hey, it's fundraising time.
Coffee mug.
Yeah.
Tote bag.
Get your pin. Does anybody actually who wears a pin? Who would ever wear, all pins do. People hand me pins. I'm like, I'm not putting a hole in this shirt for you. Sorry. I'm not putting a hole in the shirt to promote your company. Whenever somebody gives me a pin for their company or their candidate, I'm like, I'm not putting a hole in my shirt for you.
Suddenly you're Kramer on Seinfeld at the ribbon thing. No, I don't need the ribbon, thanks.
Yes.
We got to wear the ribbon.
Now, that's a good episode.
The KCUR crowd is putting it on their tote bag.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe that's what they're doing. Oh, gosh. Happy Thursday. We're almost at the weekend. Great to have you here on KCMO Talk Radio, 710 AM and 103.7 FM. The two top stories have been around the ballpark visits or the ballpark site visits yesterday from Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred, and then also this new polling coming out from Fox News around Donald Trump and the presidential race of 2024. The good side for Trump is the fact that it suggests that he is far and away the winner in the Republican primary. He's up by 40 points in the poll. And it shows him the closest to beating Joe Biden. The bad part of the poll is that his net favorability is awful for suburban voters, white college grads, independents, and they're worse than Biden. So there's good in the poll for Trump, and there's bad in the poll for Trump. Kathy's in Merriam. She's on KCMO. Hey, Kathy, good morning. What's up?
Good morning, Mondo, and morning. I just had a couple comments to make about that. First, I want to say I really appreciate Mondo, Bongino, and Levine. Those are the times that I'm listening, and you all made it very bearable for us to lose Rush. So you've stepped up to the plate, and thank you for that.
Well, that is too kind of a compliment, but we appreciate it.
Is that not the greatest compliment you can get? I'm telling you. It's very sincere. So I want to say that, but I also want to say Fox polls. Okay, first off, I'm laughing. I'm laughing at Fox because Fox is not the Fox that it was. That's number one, my opinion. Mm-hmm. Number two, who are they polling? Did they ask you? Did they ask me? I'm a white suburban female, and nobody called and polled me, so I think they're polling the Dems. I am on to their agenda, and it's not going to work, trolls. Leave my guy alone, Trump 2024, and that's just it. They are so panicked, and they are so out of touch with reality and what this country needs that there's no explanation for it. The white college kids, I was at a Walgreens yesterday, and the girl at the checkout couldn't figure out what half of $14 was. She's a college student at summer vacation. So, we need to educate these young people, but I've rambled enough. I'm done with, I'm laughing at my golden retriever could beat Joe Biden. This is just ridiculous that they're even thinking and trying to give us that commie propaganda about Biden being a contender. No way. And that's all I got to say.
Well, thank you very much there, Kathy. And you said plenty, and we always appreciate it. Thanks for checking in here on KCMO Talk Radio.